Welcome to Straight Talk and Retirement, your no-hype source for financial advice in making informed choices about your retirement planning. Get on the phone to talk today at 314-931-5877 or text your question to 84126.
The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities from LPL Financial.
Now, here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, hello, St. Louis, and welcome to Straight Talk on Retirement, your live and local, St. Louis's favorite financial call-in show. I'm Jeff Lapidus, president of JBL Financial Services. Our offices are located in beautiful downtown Olivet, Missouri. I am a 40-plus year veteran of the financial services area, a fee-based financial planner and wealth manager. And I'm joined this week and every single week by my family, my crew, my oldest prodigal daughter, Aaron Lapidus, who is also a fee-based financial planner and wealth manager, and Rob Markham, her husband, my son-in-law, our life insurance and fixed annuity sales specialist. Happy 2024, gang.
Good morning. We help our clients make smart choices about their money. The way we do that is by designing a game plan, a written step-by-step strategy, a real game plan that has several goals in mind.
First is to preserve, protect, and prudently grow the assets our clients have taken their entire lifetimes to accumulate. Second is to deliver a reliable stream of income, one that they can count on, so they can do all the things they'd like to do during retirement.
And third is cost-effectively addressing their health care needs, like helping individuals enroll in Medicare and choosing the right plan to couple with their Medicare coverage.
And then when they're done enjoying their assets during their lifetime, we show them how to pass them on to the people they love, whether it's their spouses or children, grandchildren, churches, or charities, whoever it might be, with Uncle Sam or the tax courts taking a big bite out of their money. And as their wealth managers, Aaron and I watch their money every single day to make sure they're staying on track. And that's why they call us the retirement coaches. Again, everybody, good morning. Thanks for tuning into our show. Welcome to show number 1, 2024. We're excited to be with you today. We always have a lot of subjects, things to talk about on our mind. What's more important is what's on yours. So give us a call today. We'd love to hear from you, 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. And there are lots of ways, if you'd like to keep in touch with us during the week.
That's right. You can log on to our website, jblfinancial.com. In the upper right-hand corner, you can click on the Contact Us button and send us an email with a request for a coaching session, Medicare, financial, or both. Or you can click on the lower left-hand side of the screen in the pop-up box that appears that says sign up for our monthly newsletter. We call it the Coach's Corner, and we do keep the last 6 to 12 months archived on the website for you. But we have a brand new 2024 newsletter to kick the year off.
We do, and we have a lot of great articles this month you're definitely going to want to check out. The first one being Economy Staying Strong. After a worrisome decline in GDP in the first half of 2022, the economy came roaring back in this latest GDP number, which was 4.9%. So that's certainly a step in the right direction. Next article, this one I think is very amusing. Can your personality influence your portfolio? And the answer is yes. Academic researchers have been exploring this for some time and reached some eye-opening conclusions. Just give you a small example. If you're action-oriented and sociable, your investment portfolio will look much different than someone who is neurotic and worry-prone. It's a very amusing and informative article. I think
Interesting.
I think our readers will have some fun with it because you can pigeonhole your own personality and see where you fall in these. There's 5 dominant personality types and how they invest. It's a very, very, very neat little article.
I love the infographic in here. It starts out with very neurotic, least neurotic, very open, least open.
Yeah, I've been chuckling as I've thumbed through this through the week. It's a great article. And the next one is, do you have these key estate planning documents? You know, if you've listened to us for any length of time, you've heard us harp. I don't know if that'd be the word I would use, but we
strongly encourage
to have durable power of attorney, will, letter of instruction, advance medical directive. Having these key documents in order will save you a lot of time and a lot of anxiety later. And the last article is, don't neglect your credit when planning and in retirement. You know, you may be retired longer than you are actually working, and in retirement you may want to make some big ticket purchases, be it your forever car, a boat, a new house. There's always something. And by not neglecting your credit, you can finance these things at a reasonable rate. So you're definitely it's got some tips and tricks there that certainly can help.
Excellent. We call it the Coach's Corner. You can access it by going to our website, jblfinancial.com, and click on the box that says sign up for our monthly newsletter in the lower left-hand corner of the screen, and we will send it out to you every single month. You can also follow us on Twitter, JBL Financial, as well as Facebook. We are JBL Financial.
Very good. And as a reminder, all of our clients are folks like you. They're 55 and older. They would like to retire, or they're already retired. And as Aaron mentioned, our goal is to create a game plan for them so they can have a fun and financially secure retirement. And again, our phone lines are open, so we'd love to hear from you, 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. And while we're waiting for your calls and texts, let's get on to subject number one.
Things
to do. Go ahead, Rob.
Goodness.
Things to consider doing with that year-end bonus. Now that we're into the new year, many of our listeners may have received a bonus from work, and there are 4 areas that we thought you might want to consider.
The first and most important for everyone, investor getting ready to retire, already retired, still in the workforce, is ensuring that your emergency fund is full. Do you need to accumulate any money for specific spending during the year? You know, maybe you're planning a large trip, a remodel to the house. Maybe you're attempting to pay something off that you had on a credit card potentially at the end of the year for, large family gifting or holiday expenses. Is your emergency fund full after all of those things have been satisfied?
And I think this is so important because having ready cash available to do this will put you in a position where you don't have to use credit, which can be very expensive, especially credit card short-term credit. The other thing you want to consider, number 2, is, am I contributing enough to maximize my retirement plan contributions for 2024? We know those limits have now gone up for this year, not only for 401k, 403b, the tax deductible contributions, but also Roth has also gone up as well. And so, are you maximizing those contributions? Because we know that investing in a retirement plan is always preferable, because again, money is typically going, especially with 401k contributions or IRA contributions, they're going pre-tax into a plan. The money's growing income tax deferred, and you need not begin to make withdrawals from those accounts either until retirement maybe, or even age 73 to 75 based on your age. So we're looking at that. The other thing you should be looking at is, am I eligible to make additional contributions for either traditional or Roth IRAs for 2023 to reduce my tax liability? If you're under the income limits, you can do that, and we know that the only limitation there is that you need to make those contributions before you file your income tax return for 2023, which the clock's ticking away, right? April 15th of 2024 is when those are due.
Absolutely. And the next thing people should consider is, do you want to significantly reduce or pay off any high-interest debt? can you pay off your mortgage, or maybe a home equity line of credit you want to knock down. All very, very, I would think, reasonable and prudent things to do with that year-end bonus.
Especially with the home equity line of credit, because many people have found that those rates can float depending upon what type of home equity line you have secured. So if you have added some debt to your primary mortgage through a home equity line of credit, maybe that's the first thing that you tackle. It also, generally has a shorter amortization period than your original primary mortgage, those usually 15, 20, 30 years, whereas home equity lines of credit are between 10 and 15 years.
And something really important here to consider, which I know most of you want to do, is that by reducing your outflows, that is, payments that you're making for either long-term debt like primary mortgages or intermediate debt like home equity lines, or frankly short-term debt, credit cards, is that when we reduce those outflows, the inflows that you have become more valuable to you. And in many cases, liquidating this debt over a specific period of time, maybe over a shorter period than you're thinking, is one way for you to either make your retirement a little more comfortable from a cash flow point of view, or in many cases even make it work. And we've seen that in the past. So dedicating this money to debt reduction is always a smart idea, no question. And then finally, do you deserve a little fun money? Nothing certainly wrong with that, a little conspicuous consumption. And if you don't have something that you're really looking forward to, is it possible that you may be able to spend money in a way, maybe through gifts, that's meaningful for someone that you love, other family members, etc.? And I know Aaron and Rob are always happy when I do that.
Absolutely.
Always open and accepting gifts.
Never turn them away.
Never.
Absolutely. And we know the gift tax exemption has been increased to $18,000 this year. So if you happen to be married, that means you and your spouse can gift up to $36,000 without having to file a gift tax return to any number of human beings on the planet. So that's good to think about and good to remember. So just a little quickie about some things you might consider doing with end of the year bonuses if you're receiving them, other than maybe dedicating them to paying Uncle Samson taxes. And frankly, we know that many people are in a situation where they on purpose over withhold during the year. So when you get that refund from Uncle Sam, that's a bonus as well.
A little springtime bonus.
Nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely. And as a reminder, our phone lines are open, 931-314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line.
You're probably unaware of this, Dad, but there is snow on the ground here in St. Louis. We, I guess, overnight had our first dusting. That's a good way to put it, dusting.
Yeah. It's a little wet, but it's not sticking, thank goodness.
But no one's on the roads. Everyone's inside.
Well, that's St. Louis for you.
That's right.
And it's probably good because driving can be a little treacherous when there is snow on the ground. So that's good to know. We don't have, the only thing we have on the ground here is coyotes. I saw two run past my window about 5 minutes ago. I was going to send you a picture, but they were a little too quick. They were on the move. They were on the run. They were on the move. One basically was about the size of Lassie. The other one was almost double the size. So.
Oh my God.
It was very large, a little scary, and that's what happens when you live in the wilderness of California.
Live in the wilderness.
I love how they have no fear of humans and just walking around, just patrolling the neighborhood.
Patrolling.
That's or trolling the neighborhood, depending on what you're set your for rabbits or whatever small pets that they can find. But again, that's great. And I think we would be remiss in saying that 2023 was a
great year.
Was a great year, and it was certainly one that was unexpected, especially based on where we came out of 2022. But that's what the markets are. They're based on the expectation of investors. They go up and down. I think this week was our official first negative week of the year, but the first negative week in terms of the markets in the last 10. So being invested, staying invested is really where things are. And frankly, what's nice is that if you are actively at work, you're not yet retired, you've already had that first withdrawal of the year for your retirement account, which is great. So you'll be hopefully dollar cost averaging into the market, maybe at lower amounts, and waiting for a recovery like everybody else.
That's right. And we've got our first caller on the line this morning.
Good morning, David.
Good morning. I have a question. I have at the end of this month, I will end a 10-year annuity contract. With this money here in the annuity, am I going to be able to roll that into another tax-deferred fund, or what are my options that I could do with this? And also, at the same time, if I was to take this money, if I could, and purchase CDs with this, how would I take care of my RMD?
So your annuity is held inside of a IRA account?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, so the first thing is, if you decided that you wanted to purchase another annuity contract inside of your IRA, there are no tax consequences. They would call that a replacement. So you could do that inside of your IRA. The annuity contracts are generally RMD friendly, which means you'd be able to make the required minimum distribution from that new annuity that you've purchased without any penalty. If you decide that you'd like to surrender the contract inside of the IRA and then purchase CDs, my recommendation would be you probably want to ladder them in terms of when they come due, so that way by the end of the year, so if you chose a 6 month, I know they're offering 8-month CDs as well now, so you chose a few that would come due before the end of the year, you'd be able and use that money to satisfy your required minimum distribution, because if you hold them, all of the money inside of CDs that are going to last more than through the end of this year, you would have to break one in order to satisfy your required minimum distribution. Unless you had IRA assets elsewhere as well, you could calculate your full required minimum distribution and take it from another account, because the IRS doesn't require that you take from each IRA proportionally. They just require that you have met your required minimum distribution amount one way or the other by December 31st of this year.
David,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
David, I was just going to ask a question. You mentioned that the contract is ending its 10-year period. I assume you're talking about the surrender period,
right?
In the contract, which is fine. If you don't mind my asking, is this a fixed annuity, which is paying you a fixed rate of interest, or is it a variable annuity?
Well, it was a variable annuity. Whenever I took it out, I was told that I would get was guaranteed 5% and could maybe go to 7%.
Okay. So you do have what's called a withdrawal privilege that's available, and this is something that's built into every annuity contract. And so what I would suggest here is that you probably have a withdrawal privilege of at least 5%. It could be 10. It could be up to 10%, which is normally the withdrawal privilege inside of fixed annuities. But that's something you might want to talk to your advisor about. As Aaron said, based on your age, if the withdrawal percentage that you have available to you is less than the required minimum distribution amount, the insurance company will liberalize their withdrawal provision for you without any penalty, so that you could actually make that distribution. But again, or what you might want to consider doing, as Aaron was kind of recommending here, I might even say the opposite, which is make the withdrawal early this year from the annuity to satisfy the distribution. Since it's out of its surrender period, if you need to, you could certainly consider surrendering it if you're looking at buying other options. So you've got a bunch of things that are available to do on this, and I would certainly talk to your advisor a little more specifically about that, because they know what the provisions are in your contract.
Okay, the way that I understand that at the end of this month, when this contract is up, that I can withdraw all of it all that's in there without a penalty. Does that sound right?
Yes, General. At the end of the surrender period, there is no charge, sort of like when a CD renews. Similarly, there is no back-end charge to do that. But again, you want to be careful. If it's a variable annuity, many older variable annuities added what were called living benefit riders. When you were talking about the 5%, et cetera, the withdrawal base of that annuity may be larger than what the account value or the cash value of the contract is. And in which case, you probably want to you might want to really look very carefully before making a surrender, because the difference between that living benefit, if it's greater, which is an insurance benefit, as compared to the account value, you give that up if you do a surrender. And that would be something that you want to be very careful about, because what you're doing is maybe letting the insurance company off the hook.
Especially after 10 years, there could be a sizable difference between the insurance and the account value.
Okay. All right.
Yes, but your agent would be the advisor that sold this to you would be somebody that could advise you on this. And, interestingly enough, we do a lot of work with these. And this is something that we point out at every single meeting with our clients, which is, what is the account value versus what is the living benefit rider? And in many cases, what happens is, because we know the account value can go up and down in a variable annuity based on the performance of the underlying sub-accounts, which are basically investment accounts as they're considered. What then happens is that we're making withdrawals in many cases to maximize that withdrawal benefit until such a time where the account value and the withdrawal base are the same number. And if you're out of your surrender period, guess what? Then you can walk away from the contract. But before then, you want to be careful.
Right, because there are other ways that you could give up what you've earned, not just through a surrender charge. So once you've satisfied the surrender charge, there's no charges to, surrender the contract. However, you could be leaving some of your benefit on the table.
I see. Yeah, because it was set up the way I understood it. It was set up that it would be paid monthly to me or annually, however we set it up, till my death, and then the balance of it would go to my spouse.
Perfect. Sounds like it sounds like you understand things correctly. Again, what's important here is that you want to be very careful if you're going to blow this thing up or consider doing it, because as Aaron mentioned, there could be a significant difference between that insured benefit and what your account value is, and you give that up. So maybe what you might consider doing, as she recommended, was you say, hey, let's start making the withdrawals, which are distributions. Put that money back into your IRA. Use that to satisfy part of your requirement minimum distributions, and then also then maybe pull money from other sources in your IRA to satisfy the balance.
And even depending upon what the withdrawal amount is from the contract, you could satisfy a requirement and potentially purchase a CD, as you were talking about, if that's something that's an objective of yours.
All things at once.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. You just want to be careful we don't throw out the old shoe for a pair of new shoes.
Sure. All right. I thank you so much, and I appreciate your program.
Thanks for calling in.
Thank you, David.
Thank you. I thought we did that one okay without having to go through disclosures. What do you think?
Well, it was a caller. We did not bring up the subject on our own.
Yeah, which is great. Yeah, annuities are complex products. They do have expense charges, and it's very difficult. And we're happy to answer these questions. As you can tell, we do a lot of work with these contracts. But unfortunately,
even within the same base contract, there can be a lot of different provisions or riders or additions that you've added that change the
nature and complexion of what you're looking at and how you're looking at it.
That's exactly right. So we want to make sure that we have all of the information in order to provide the best guidance possible. But, before we take our first break of the hour, David actually brought up a good point that I have heard many people ask, which is regarding your required minimum distributions. Dad, do you think that there is a significant difference between taking your required minimum distribution on a monthly basis at the beginning of the year or waiting until the end of the year in the hopes that your account values have risen over that period of time, so you essentially have more money invested over the year and you're taking it at the very end?
Well, I think the approach that we have taken is it really depends upon our client's game plan. In many cases, we're using those required minimum distributions to help fund their monthly income need, in which case then taking it on a monthly basis makes sense. Alternatively, if we're in a situation where we aren't using or we haven't dedicated that specific asset to fund monthly income needs, if there are any, then I think it makes sense to maybe wait towards the end of the year. In most cases, if you are living in a piece of property, a home, whether it's paid off or not, you have real estate taxes, things like that are due. And what we're doing with many of our clients is we're basically saying, hey, you don't need to save so much for your real estate taxes because that RMD will deliver that to you at the beginning of November or December so that you can pay those taxes or, frankly, fund other obligations or needs that you might have, whether it's a car, whether it's a vacation, whether it's a gift, etc. So I think, again, the rule of thumb really is driven by the need for cash.
All right, that makes sense to me.
And with that, I think we should take our first break of the hour, so don't touch that dial. We'll be back with more Straight Talk on Retirement.
You've moved before, and when it comes time for you to move again, and I know that these are things you probably are not thinking about right now, I'm going to make a recommendation on a mover for you. These people are simply great. And just because they have moved the Cardinals every season for like the last 35 doesn't mean they're going to cost you any more than, the guy down the road. Aim Razek, totally professional. They love moving. They live for moving. I know it sounds crazy, but they invest in people, and then they reward those people when they do a good job. That's how great companies are run, and that's the kind of company Aim Razek is, a United Van Lines company. So whether you're a corporate relocation or you're doing some sort of hospitality installation or you're just moving to another house across the street, around the block, across the state, across the country, or around the world, you can count on Aim Razek. They're there for you all the time. You'll find them online at a-mrazek.com.
It's the dead of winter, so come alive with Dogtown. Dogtown Pizza, that is. Fight the cold months with a hot meal, and with 11 different varieties, you can have it breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Shake off Old Man Winter with a bacon, or melt Jack Frost with a hot chicken, or a deluxe, or veggie, or my personal favorite, you know it, pepperoni peppercini. Beat the cold and heat up your winter with a Dogtown Pizza.
Dig out those dancing shoes. Dancing with the St. Louis Stars is right around the corner. Join Independence Center for one of the most star-studded nights of the year at the Ritz-Carlton on January 20th at 6 p.m. Help in the fight to destigmatize mental illness by donating to the cause and by voting for your favorite dancer. And if you can't join the event in person, be sure to catch the live stream. It's all happening at independencenter.org/dancing. Catch Dancing with the St. Louis Stars, presented by Emerson, January 20th at 6 p.m.
Before you put your home on the market, before you have to pay money fixing it up to sell it, before you have to pay real estate commissions, call me. I'm Mike Robinson with Robank Properties, and I will buy your home. Any property, any condition, anywhere, and always as is. Call me, Mike Robinson with Robank Properties at 314-283-0867. That's 314-283-0867. You have nothing to lose when you call Robank Properties at 314-283-0867.
On January 11th, the St. Louis Blues will be hosting Pink at the Rink, presented by Siteman Cancer Center, a special theme night dedicated to raising breast cancer awareness. Enterprise Center will be awash in shades of pink as fans come together to support those affected by breast cancer. So join fellow fans and spread hope, love, and awareness on this impactful night. Theme ticket buyers will receive a pair of Blues-branded pink plaid flannel pajama pants. Proceeds will support Siteman Cancer Center. Get your tickets at stlouisblues.com/theme.
Here's our story. Tony and Denise, brother and sister team, born and raised in good old St. Louis, started in 2009.
More like 1959.
Started our business in 2009 with the idea of buying in bulk in order to save you money.
Our sales staff will educate you on products and features that are most important to you. We can offer top brands like GE at the lowest price every day.
Come by and visit any of our 4 showrooms or shop us online at theappliancediscounters.com, where our savings are your savings.
Change happens. One thing you never have to wonder about are big changes at the Big 550 KTRS. We are firm and enduring with a huge commitment to the community, and you'll always get ABC Network News, along with local news, traffic, weather, and sports from the most recognized and trusted voices in St. Louis. This year, celebrating 28 years of serving you. The Big 550 KTRS, nationally known, locally owned. Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Welcome back. It's 9:35 here on the Big 550 KTRS, Talk Radio St. Louis. I'm Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach.
I'm Aaron Lapidus, the retirement coach.
And I'm Robert Markham, your life insurance and fixed annuity sales specialist.
And we are willing, waiting, and wanting to answer your phone calls at 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line.
And speaking of the text line, I think we have our first one of the day. And our texter writes, if half of your IRA is property and the other half is cash or stocks or bonds, how do you calculate the required minimum distribution for 1 year without having to sell the property?
So first, I want to say that this is a it's an exceedingly rare occurrence. Most financial institutions do not allow you to hold property inside of your IRA accounts. You actually have to go to a special custodian in order to do this. The custodian will calculate your required minimum distribution amount, and you are required to pay that either through the sale of if you have stocks, bonds, or cash, or if you have another IRA, like we were mentioning with David, our last caller, you can take your required minimum distribution from another IRA in order to satisfy it.
Yes, and I would say that this is kind of an expensive thing because I would assume that the property has to be appraised each year.
Right.
So that you can do that, and most likely that custodian is putting that upon you as your responsibility. So property is certainly nothing that is common, and it's really a difficult asset to hold in an IRA account. And frankly, our custodian won't permit that to happen. But good luck to you.
Absolutely.
I mean, what else can you say?
And it looks like we have another caller on the line. Greg, good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
Great. Thank you. Thanks for calling. What is your question?
Yes. I've decided to take my Social Security retirement as part of my retirement package. And I was just my wife and I were doing some planning, and I was wondering, I think I'll get about right at $3,100 a month in Social Security retirement. If I were to unexpectedly pass away, my wife and I have 12 years age difference. She's younger than me. Would she receive the entire amount of that, or a percentage of it, or any of it?
So what you're referring to is the survivor benefit, and your wife would be eligible for 100% of your benefit. However, it is going to be discounted based on her age. So if she's at least 60 years old right now, when you elect, she's not? Okay. All right, so she won't be able to elect the survivor benefit for 5 more years until she's 60. However, at 60, this $3,100 that you mentioned is going to be discounted 8% per year for every year that she's under her normal retirement age, which I believe is 67. So if she happens to reach 67 years old before you pass away and she takes the survivor benefit, then she's going to be eligible for 100% of what you're currently receiving. So the answer is it depends.
Okay. So it would be at a discount percentage until, once she reaches that age of a full retirement, would she then get the full amount? Or?
That is absolutely correct, yes.
Okay, so her entitlement would go up at that point.
Exactly. So she would be, and the great thing about the survivor benefit is, for example, Greg, if you happen to pass away, she could elect her own benefit starting at 62 years old and let your benefit remain, and she could switch over to the survivor benefit when she's her full retirement age if your benefit happened to be larger than hers, Or she could do it in the reverse, which means if her benefit grew at her normal retirement age to be larger than the $3,100, she could elect the survivor benefit and wait to take her benefit. And these are all things that the Social Security office will point out when she notifies them of your passing. They'll actually let her know which benefit is going to be greater and which one to elect. Or if you're working with an advisor, they should be able to help her pinpoint what the best election strategy would be if you were to predecease her.
Okay, so in essence, if she were to elect to take mine upon my passing away before she did for retirement, she would have to wait at least until 60, or she could take hers at 62.
Correct.
In other words, she would take hers early. At 62. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate that information.
Absolutely.
You know, this is an interesting planning situation because of the difference in age. And one thing that hopefully, Greg, you're still listening, that you might consider is that if you were to pass away before she happens to reach age 59 and a half.
60.
Well, 60 is for Social Security, but under 59 and a half, instead of her taking over your IRA, assuming you have one, and making it a part of hers, at that point you're probably, hopefully, receiving required minimum distributions, in which case then she could continue the flow of income from those IRAs to her without penalty. And then what happens is once she's old enough, i.e. 60, 62, she could then incorporate those into her IRA accounts. So even though the Social Security faucet might not be able to be turned on for her, maybe what we're doing is we're using her IRA faucet as turned on first. The other thing that obviously would have a big impact, and we didn't ask Greg about this, or maybe we should have, is whether his wife is currently at work. Because if she is, based on her age, if she does take this or elect the benefit prior to her normal retirement age, she could be also subject to the Social Security give back, right, babe?
Yes. That is also true.
So that's a big deal. So, Greg, while you're figuring these things out, you're definitely in an optimal situation to go back to your current advisor and say, hey, this is what we're thinking. Let's walk through the steps of what might happen if death occurred tonight, if it happened 1 year from now, 5 years, 10 years, etc. What would be the process that we would be going through, or that you would see us going through, so that you'll feel a little more comfortable?
That's a great point.
And we've got our next texter all queued up, and the texter writes, my wife's doctor ordered a test that Aetna has refused to cover under the Advantage Gold plan. What should she do?
So the first thing that I would do is contact the doctor's office, let them know that they probably notified you that that Aetna has denied a requested test. You should submit an appeal for that, depending upon why the test was refused. Then after that appeal, what will happen is there'll be a peer-to-peer conversation that luckily you don't have to be involved in. Your wife's doctor and Aetna's doctors will have a conversation. They'll come to an agreement as to if this should be covered. If you receive another denial from Aetna, you can actually appeal this directly to Medicare, and they will make the determination of if this should be covered under Aetna's policy or not. But I would check with the doctor's office first as to what exactly triggered the denial, because there may be some alternatives that you can do before you start down the appeals path.
Honey, I think that's something that I know you told me about in the past, that what the insurance company may be looking for is other tests before you get to that test, right?
Yeah, so for example, a lot of times they may consider denying an MRI if they want you to try physical therapy first, or like you mentioned, Dad, they want a different test before this test is completed. So there are usually underlying reasons for the denial. You want to get to the bottom of that, because there could be an easier path than starting the battle with the insurance company. However, with Medicare, usually these reviews happen within 48 to 72 hours. So it usually is a relatively quick process once you get it started.
Yeah, and there could be some nice, easy remedies like what you were suggesting, like maybe she has to do X or Y before they will approve that. So it's definitely something you're going to want to get with the doctor on.
Absolutely. That's the first place I would start.
Well, and the other place you might want to start is also with your agent because they're on the payroll, right?
That's right. So if you work directly with an individual like our office, like Frank in our office or myself or Robert, then you'll want to go to them because they usually can't. They're not going to be able to get the information for you, but what they can do is call with you on the phone, or you can send them the information you've received, and they can help create a game plan for you to get that test approved.
Yeah, and that's important because you know your agent can be part of the process, and frankly, they should be, because every time you pay a premium, they get paid.
That's true. Or when you're enrolled, exactly.
Excellent.
That's great. So if we're all out of texts for the moment and phone calls, we just want to remind folks we're here. We're live and local. We'd love to hear from you. 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. Rob, I think we were going to start a discussion this morning also about about John and Judy, about will we be rock stars in retirement? So let me kick that off if we can.
Yep.
John and Judy are husband and wife. They're both 63 and they currently work from home. And after listening to the show for some time, they decided to come in for a coaching session, which is fun. John has gotten used to working from home, and he tells us that he doesn't foresee his employer require him to come back to the office to come to work on a regular basis, which is good for him. But Judy's not so lucky. Her manager has recently retired. She did so during COVID, and their company also moved their offices. And her current manager has been floating around the idea that the company may be requiring them to come back in at least once per week. And this is certainly something that isn't unusual. But in Judy's case, the move of the office now made this 45 minutes away from her current home. And they're wondering, well, Judy may say, I really don't want to go, based on the number of days that they're requiring her to come back in, it may be time for her to retire. And so John is wondering whether both of them can retire together. And frankly, are they in a position where are they rock stars? And that's not an unusual request that we get from folks. So to answer that question, as always, when folks come in for coaching sessions, we go to our electronic 6x8 foot whiteboard, and we like to play This Is Your Life. So why don't you go through the numbers?
Well, we can't because you've got notes that we don't have. So we're going to let you roll with this.
Fabulous. Happy to do that. So what happened is that the income that they had told us that they needed after tax, the amount that they were spending, was approximately $6,000 per month. And naturally, as a part of our process, what we want to do is turn those back into pre-tax dollars. So we increase that $6,000 per month by 20%, meaning that they have a pre-tax income need of approximately $7,200 per month. Now, they do have some sources of capital, which is kind of fun. They have about $90,000 of savings, which is investments. We'll call these after-tax investments, not a part of their vault. He has about $850,000 in a 401k plan, and she has approximately $360,000 in hers. So they're at approximately $1.3 million of total, we'll call them investable assets, or assets that are available to them for retirement. And because they're over 59 and a half, should they retire, making withdrawals from their plans maybe aren't any penalties. So what we like to do is we like to take a look at the analysis and say, what happens when all the faucets are on? And again, so what we're doing is kind of moving forward 4 years and saying, okay, what happens at 67? Well, we know that neither John or Judy have a pension plan, but they will have Social Security eligibility. Her Social Security is going to run approximately $2,400 per month at 67, and his is going to be running about $3,100 per month, very similar to our previous caller. So their total income sources are going to be approximately $5,400 per month. They need 72. They've got 54. So they're really going to be short approximately $1,600 per month or $19,200 per year at retirement. Not unusual. Question becomes, do they have enough capital to maintain that flow? Well, what we like to do, part of our formula, is we would reduce that. We would basically divide that 19,200 by 4%, which is, again, is considered a prudent way to withdraw. And that tells us that the capital that they need to support that income flow is approximately $480,000. We like to call that the milk money. That should be reasonably safe, secure, not super subject to unreasonable amounts of market risk. So when we look at them at this point, they had $1.3 million. They've got $480,000. They'll need $480,000 for the milk money. Woohoo! Sounds like they're rock stars, right?
It does, but it sounds also like we have to game plan for the time when before Social Security gets turned on.
What a bright young man. I agree with you. So what we would do then is we say, okay, they need $7,200 a month. They need that for 12 months times 4 years, which is approximately $345,000. That would bridge the gap of income before they turn on the Social Security faucet. So if we add those two numbers together, that tells us that they would need approximately $825,000. Again, less than the $1.3 million that they have available to them today. And we're also not assuming any assumed rate of return, interest earnings between now and 67, etc. So they're in a pretty good spot at this point. And they got a very big woohoo from me for doing that, which is just great. But then, of course, their next question was, Jeff, we like the idea. We've met with you and Aaron and Rob. We're feeling very comfortable with you guys. How would we decide to get started? Well, the process is pretty easy. The first thing that we like to do is we like to arrange a second coaching session. At that visit, we're going to discuss our recommendations for not only their non-retirement assets, which of course we want to try to synergize with the assets that they have currently in their retirement plans. And we would also consider opening a new account to accept that money. Because typically what happens is before retirement, if folks want to engage us, we're becoming their investment advisor. This is an easy way to do. What we also will do is we've agreed, and we like to review the investment options that they currently have inside of their retirement plans to make sure that number one is that they're matching their risk tolerance. And secondarily, what also happens is they're taking advantage of hopefully the most or the least expensive investment options that are there to create that that particular mix of investments that they have, and we make suggestions to them on that. Well, also as a part of our process really for their overall plan was we agreed to make a recommendation to them to a local estate planning attorney so that they could have their documents all updated, especially not only their wills but also durable powers of attorney. There was a discussion about whether a trust was needed for a child that they had that was special needs, and making sure that they have basically the framework of their legal documents to make sure that that foundation was very solid. Another part of their game plan was we agreed to have discussions in the very near future about planning for long-term care needs, making sure that not only did they have that their assets would be protected in the case that one of them became chronically ill, and certainly they've got a couple of years here where they need to make some health insurance choices about, do we continue on his plan or her plan under COBRA if we leave, if one of us leaves, if both of us leaves, and then how do we make that smooth transition to Medicare, which, as you know, we certainly help. We've helped thousands of folks do that, and it's just fun to do. And then finally, we also made an agreement to take a look at their existing life insurance to make sure that the coverage was appropriate at the size that they had it, really making sure they had what I like to think of as the optimal faced amount based on where their needs were. But also, we want to test their premium paying strategy. And this is a big deal because in many cases we have found, I would say, honey, I'm sure you probably agree with me, over 80% of the folks that we visit with have old life insurance policies that frankly could support themselves by using their dividends a little bit differently, whole life or universal life contracts, and really stop those premium flows.
Absolutely. We've helped many clients with that same thing. When we start looking at these contracts and we see the dividends and interest exceed the premium, we just apply those to the premium and voila, no premium.
Or premium paid, not
right.
out of your pocket.
Which is great. So, what was kind of fun is that I think we left John and Judy in a situation, and they're certainly considering about where their options are and where they go based upon the decisions that they have to make. I mean, they're both enjoying their work. They both certainly want to continue, but the future is always uncertain, whether their employer decides that they need to come in, whether they want to do that. And frankly, it isn't unusual for us to see folks retiring before normal retirement age, and helping them then make that transition smoothly on healthcare really, I think, makes the road a little bit easier. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. Bridging that gap between when you elect to take Social Security, you're onboarding onto Medicare, having that process go smoothly with all I's dotted and T's crossed. It's really why we're here.
Which is great. And, we've had, fortunately, another part of our practice that we don't really talk about very often is that we've been in the company health insurance market for over 30 years, helping companies design these plans, doing communications with their employees, at the same time assisting them with their benefits, helping them make those decisions and those transitions about whose plan do we stay on if one goes and one doesn't, making that transition onto their plan without having to worry about pre-existing conditions, bridging the gap if we needed to, like in their particular case, 63 and a half, maybe 6 months from now is really the magical golden time, because we know that COBRA, which they would be offered if they both quit, would take them, 18-month benefit would take them basically to Medicare eligibility, which is heaven. And so having that peace of mind of knowing that there really is a process that we're going to go through and that we have all the dates marked, it's on our agenda, and it should be on your agenda, works very well. So that was a little bit of fun.
That's great. I think we have a couple of text questions before we get to the end of the hour.
Yeah, we do. And our first texter writes, Happy New Year. Now that we've moved into an election year, are you offering any specific or, I can't read that word, advice regarding volatility in this upcoming year and ways to deal with it?
Dave, why don't you grab that?
Well, there is always going to be volatility in the market, either known, unknown, unexpected, coming down the pike, especially during an election year. And I think it's always important, like we've discussed many times in the past, to make sure that your income needs are not subject to market volatility, that any cash requirements that you have over the next 12 months aren't necessarily subject to market volatility either. But it is always important to stay invested, because we've seen other election years where, for example, if we look back to the 2016 election night, I think the futures in the market were down 500 plus points, which doesn't even seem like that much at this point.
They didn't stay that way.
They certainly didn't stay that way, not only for election night, but really through the entire administration. And then during our last election, we began to see the horse racing once the two candidates were selected, Republican and Democrat, up one day, down the next. But at the end of the day, it didn't have a long-term impact on your portfolio. We didn't see any rotation out of specific, the value side of the market versus the growth side. We didn't see any sectors leading the way versus others and maintaining that lead. It was just a short-term volatility based on, what, Dad, you mentioned at the top of the hour, which was investor expectations, and those can change relatively rapidly, especially when they aren't necessarily based on economic or systemic issues with the economy or the stock market itself. And with that, We'll be back after the news.
Choices for your money.
It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS.
Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, welcome back to hour number 2 of Straight Talk on Retirement. Here on the Big 550 KTRS, this is what we love to call our Medicare hour, and we do have our in-house Medicare specialist, Franklin Ellis, Fabulous Frank as I like to call him, in the house with us. And I know you've got an interesting topic to discuss today under our Smart Choices About Your Healthcare segment.
Good morning. Very good. So, that open enrollment period is over. So, round of applause for that. Thanks a lot for the people that came to visit us during the open enrollment session. Take the time out to do the reviews that Medicare suggests that you do every year, of course. And just a couple of housekeeping items before I get into today's story. Keep in mind that we are still in the middle of an open enrollment. This one is actually called OE. You might see that analogy listed in the world of Medicare, OE, and that just means open enrollment. So this is the time for folks that have the Medicare Advantage plans to change their plan. So maybe if you have like a PPO plan where you're going in and out of network, and your max out of pocket is something like $4,500. Maybe you don't need all of that in and out of network because your doctors are already in the network. So maybe you can switch to the HMO and take advantage of those lower max out of pockets and extra benefits. So if that's something that you want to do a review on, now is the time from January 1st to March 31st. Okay, that would be the last day is March 31st. And if we make any changes on those Medicare Advantage plans, you're not going to have to wait. There's no in-between time period. Your plan is going to change automatically at the beginning of that next month.
Right, so if you come in and see Frank this month, February 1st will be your effective date for the policy that you select. If you decide you're in the right spot, then you won't change anything, and you'll just continue on with your current plan. There's never any cost obligation to chat with someone like Frank.
Very good. So today, I thought it'd be interesting to bring up a situation where we did not have a client. She's not a client of ours. She did end up giving us a call, and now is a client of ours after our discussion that we had. But I thought it'd be interesting to bring up something with dental and claims from 2023 now that we're in 2024.
That's great because if your dentist didn't bill you but you had services in 2023, you may still have the opportunity to take advantage of those old benefits. And I know, for example, Melanie, when she called, she didn't even know she had dental benefits.
That's right. So again, she wasn't a client of ours. Mm-hmm. So I had to do some discovery with her, as I do, in all of my appointments with folks. I have a series of questions that I'll ask to determine, if they should switch, what they should switch to, mm-hmm. Things of that nature. So Melanie, she actually, like you said, she did not even know she had dental inside of her plan. So something that I always ask people whenever I hear, hey, I didn't know I had these extra benefits in my plan, is, okay, how long have you been on your plan? Okay, do you know any of the other benefits in your plan, like the vision, the over-the-counter benefit, mm-hmm. The gym membership? And then I would assume, since she did not know any of those benefits, then she's not going to know the benefits that she's getting for 2024. So like the fitness reimbursement, the copay card, things like that. So during my questions that I asked her, when did she start Medicare? That's something that I always like to know is when did you enroll in Medicare? Because maybe you've been in a plan this entire time, and maybe things like your plan name changed.
Right.
Like the Aetna Freedom PPO is now the Aetna Elite PPO. Or maybe things inside of your plan has changed, like maybe when you first started your plan, there was only like $500 of dental in your plan. Now it's jumped up to like $2,000 or even more. So I asked her when she started Medicare. Of course, she told me that she did not know, so I told her to get out a red, white, and blue card for me. On that red, white, and blue card, you'll notice there's a Part A and a Part B of Medicare. So that's how I can tell when someone starts Medicare is by looking at that red, white, and blue card.
And for most people, you're never showing that red, white, and blue card to anyone. It's really kind of like a Social Security card once you've elected your benefits. But it is it is how we can determine how long you've been on Medicare, how you elected it. So, for example, if you have a different Part A effective date than your Part B, we know that maybe you joined Medicare after you turn 65. So, if you're someone that's looking to have a review with someone like Frank, these are things that you'll want to bring along with you, just in case there are questions that we need some answers to. Usually they're pretty readily available.
That's right. So we discovered that she started Medicare A and B at the same time, April of 2019. Okay, so she's been on her plan for quite some time. Since she wasn't a client of ours, we didn't have the opportunity to tell her about the extra benefits in those plans, of course. So unfortunately, she's gone all these years without knowing or taking advantage of the extra benefits in her plan.
And she heard from one of her friends that her friend had dental, and she wanted to know, do I have dental? How do I get dental? Why does she have it and I don't?
That's right.
And it turns out, Melanie, congratulations, you got dental.
You had it the entire time. So, of course, when I'm sitting down with Melanie and going over her plan, I asked to see her card that she shows to the doctor as well, because as you mentioned, your A and B card, most people won't show that, especially if you have a Medicare Advantage plan. You're going to show your HMO or your PPO card to your doctor, to your physicians, your specialists, to your dentist. You're going to show that one card to everyone, even the pharmacist.
Right.
So when I looked at her card, I noticed it was an Aetna PPO plan, which is fantastic because we love Aetna, of course. It was the old Elite PPO plan that I am actually familiar with. And ironically, during the open enrollment period time, we had a lot of folks go from that Aetna PPO plan to that Aetna HMO plan. Again, because we find these networks are very large now, the networks of doctors.
The networks are large. Aetna has removed the referral requirement with the HMO, and especially in this particular case, and for many people that are enrolling in Medicare, dental is important to them, and the dental benefit on the HMO is significantly larger.
Much larger, much larger. And we're going to get into that because I was able to help her mitigate some cost on dental for 2023, which is the entire reason why she came in to visit us.
Okay.
So when we were looking at her plan, I just asked her, okay, you're interested in this dental. What has you interested in this dental?
Mm-hmm.
Have you used dental under have you used a dentist, but you haven't used the plan, so you've just been paying everything out of pocket, basically. Right. So she said yes. She hadn't really used her plan that much since 2019, but in 2023 she did have to get some dental work done.
It wasn't some; it was a lot.
And it was a lot. That's right. That's right. So first and foremost, her benefit, her Aetna plan that she's been on for the last 3 years, I know it's had $1,000 benefit. Now we can't go back 3 years, okay? But we can go back 365 days from the date of service at the dentist office. So we can look at her April 2023 dental claims, and we can still file those and get those processed.
Oh, so as long as you had a claim in the prior year, as long as it's less than 365 days, which would be the case for every single person if you had a dental claim last year, because we're only in the 4th or the 5th day of the month.
That's right.
So she could use last year's benefits for last year's claims right now?
That is correct. So in April, whenever we were talking, she mentioned that she had to have 2 replacement bridges.
Wow.
So if we know anything about bridges, we know bridges are not permanent, and typically every 10 years or so you would need to get those replaced. Mm-hmm. So she was looking at $800 a piece for each bridge, which would be $1,600 for the month of April alone that she paid out of pocket to the dentist and not used her plan. If she used her plan, and she is going to use her plan, we have filed the claim, she's going to get $1,000 back on the claim from 2023 of that $1,600 that she paid.
So her $1,600 expense now became a $600 expense.
That is correct. And even better is by switching her to the Aetna HMO, okay, she's going to keep the exact same company. She's just going to go from the PPO to the HMO. She's going to be able to maximize that $600 plus more, because now she's going to get $3,250 of dental for the year of 2024.
Wait a second. So she can apply a claim from last year, as long as it's within 65 days, to this year's dental benefit.
That is correct. So she's going to get not only the $1,600 back, but anything from 2024 covered as well, up to that $3,240.
Wow.
$3,250, excuse me.
So that means she still has $2,650 left of 2024 benefit to utilize after she took advantage of not only the $1,000 from last year, but applied that remaining balance of $600 to the upcoming year.
That is correct. $2,600 left of dental. She probably won't need it, but if she did, she has it there, and now she would know moving forward from the rest of the time if she ever has to have any dental work to file those claims with Aetna up to 365 days to get her reimbursement.
Wow.
So needless to say, she was very ecstatic and very happy, although she was very frustrated that she did not know that she had the benefit beginning in 2019. But helping her and showing her those benefits, and I can go on, because we talked about some other benefits as well, like the over-the-counter benefit, and showing her how to get online and set up an account so that she could order over-the-counter benefits online. She had no idea she got a benefit for that. But the main thing was dental, and we helped her solve that problem.
Well, not only did you help her solve the problem for the future, but you really helped her solve the problem in the past, which is she was able to really maximize her plan even retroactively, which is really nice.
That's right.
She said, I'm shocked her dentist didn't find it odd and did not ask her about Medicare plan she had.
You know, some dentists just won't accept any dental whatsoever. Right. It doesn't matter what company it's with, whether it's with Aetna or United or Humana. Some dentists will just not accept any dental. So that may have been the case to where the dentist did not accept anything, so they weren't going to ask about it anyway, because it's a reimbursement plan. It's not a dental plan; it's a reimbursement plan.
Right. So sometimes your dentist will be willing to submit the paperwork for you, but in other cases, you're going to have to do the legwork. Which, if you're working with someone like Frank, they can easily provide you with the dental claim reimbursement form, so you can fill it out with your bill, send it in, and get your reimbursement. But the other thing is if you walk into the dentist's office and say, I'm on Medicare, I don't have dental, they're not going to say, well, can I see your card so I can be sure that you don't have dental? In most cases, if you proactively, unfortunately, give not accurate information to the dental, the dentist office, they're not necessarily going to do a lot more research for you. So not only is dental an important piece of this puzzle, but there were a lot of other benefits that, aren't being utilized on these policies because people don't necessarily know. You get that booklet in the mail. Most people flip directly to the medical benefits and then check to make sure their doctors are still in network. And if everything feels good to them, they're not necessarily flipping through the rest of that book to see what else has been added, changed, or amended to the policy.
That's right. I think for folks that have been on Medicare since 2020, I think it would be very beneficial for those folks to do a review because the plans have changed drastically in the last 3 years alone. Like you mentioned earlier, referrals, they're no longer required. One thing that I do want to mention about Aetna, though, going back to that lady's comment, is Aetna does not have a dental network. So they're the only ones without a dental network. So you can see any licensed dentist in the country, get your dental done, get everything covered except for cosmetics. So I'm sorry, Medicare does not want to make you look pretty, make your smile look pretty, because they just won't cover those cosmetics. But they'll cover everything else.
And they'll cover implants.
That's right,
so
and they will cover implants.
I guess veneers would probably be something that would be considered aesthetic dentistry. Is that right?
As long as it was medically necessary, veneers would be covered. But if it is not medically necessary, then they would consider that cosmetic, so it would not be covered.
All right, that's a great point. Now, we received just like dozens of questions over the last couple of weeks about individuals that that were already on Aetna but have not received their updated cards yet. And we received just 2 days ago a bulletin, essentially, from Aetna that let us know, unfortunately, individuals that were currently enrolled in specifically the Aetna Gold plan, the one that we were just discussing, did not have their cards mailed to them. There was a small error. They're fixing that. new cards are going to be sent out. Everyone should have their card if you're on the Aetna Gold plan by January 17th. However, you can still use your 2023 card in 2024. If you're on the Aetna Gold plan, your member number's not going to change, so you can continue to use that. You'll get the updated benefits. They're not going to give you, they're not going to charge you the old benefits just because you have the old card. So if you have something to do, a prescription to fill before the 17th when you get your new card, you can still use that old one.
And that would be for instance, if you already have the Aetna HMO, you did not change anything. If you did make a change, so if you were one of the folks that went from like the Aetna PPO to the HMO, or maybe came off of a different insurance company to the Aetna HMO, you'll want to either, one, give me a call if you don't have your card yet, because I can give you your member ID number, and you can take that member ID number to the doctor and they can file it then. Or you'll just want to wait until you get that new card in the mail.
All right, so we have a comment, and maybe you have some insight on this, Frank. I'm finding that the Aetna over-the-counter is not as inclusive as what United Healthcare provided. Almost none of the no-name brands, and they're very limited vitamins.
I won't argue with that. Some of these plans and some of these companies have different benefits. Well, they have the same benefits, but a little bit better options for benefit. For instance, like Aetna has the better dental. United, yeah, they have a stronger over-the-counter line, but you get a little bit more bang for your buck with the Aetna one, because they do give you $120 a quarter on that Aetna one.
So I have a question, because a client came in and we were chatting on the financial side, but he mentioned, he works with you on the Medicare side, and that you had told him about the United Healthcare app that you can download onto your phone, and you can actually walk through the pharmacy and scan barcodes, and it will tell you if it's qualified over the counter benefit or not. Does Aetna have something similar to that, or is that a United Healthcare only thing at the moment?
So not right now. I would say the closest thing that Aetna would have to that would just be to get on your computer browser and make an account like I did with Melanie, and you can order your over-the-counter stuff online like that. But as far as going in-store and scanning a barcode, that's exclusively United Healthcare. Aetna does not have that feature yet. Aetna has been rolling out some features for us brokers, so maybe in the future there will be an app that comes out and they can scan. But right now, the United they're a little bit ahead of the ball game when it comes to that having the availability to walk into a store, grab an item, scan it to see if you can purchase it with your over-the-counter benefit.
And then the last thing I wanted to mention, and if anyone has any questions they'd like to call in, 314-931-5877, or send us a text, 84126. Frank is here for a few more minutes, so please let us know what questions you have. On the fitness reimbursement, which has been much discussed because it was really cool, we didn't have all the information. Sounds like Aetna didn't have all the information fully either with the new benefit. So they've put a little bit of more meat on the bones, which is you're going to have a separate reimbursement form for your fitness allowance or fitness reimbursement. And then the other thing is that they are going to request a receipt of your use of whatever item that you purchased. So, for example, if you purchased a tent, because you're camping, you enjoy, being out in the wilderness, I guess, they request a receipt from the camping site when you use that tent. So maybe if you purchased, a new driver, a new putter, and you have the receipt for the golf cart that you rented or the greens fees from when you were on the golf course, you're going to want to include that. Now, if you don't have a receipt for stated use, you can just write a description of what you did. So, for example, you went camping in your kid's backyard. Maybe you didn't have to pay a camping, a fee for that. They just want to know how you used your fitness benefit. I can't. Don't quote me on this, but it's my feeling that what they are trying to do is determine how people are utilizing the benefit. This is not to disqualify you from getting your reimbursement. I don't believe that they are going to be exponentially stringent on what you write in this box or what receipt you provide, but I think they're trying to track this new benefit to see how beneficial it is to members.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was kind of funny. They want to see a receipt
I
of
know.
use.
That is funny. I think this is a very excellent program for people. You might have to do a little bit of extra work now to get that fitness reimbursement. It is a $1,200 reimbursement under the HMO, or if you still have the old PPO, because we still did leave a few folks in that old PPO because it made more sense. Then that's a $600 benefit.
Okay, so you got double the benefit if you're on the HMO. And then, for example, if you decided that you were going to use your fitness allowance for a gym membership that wasn't covered under Silver Sneakers, that's a super easy thing to submit because you're just submitting your monthly membership allowance or fees.
That's right. That's right.
Just depends on what you buy, how easy it'll be to submit. But like I said, you can just write in the box like they mentioned. So
Can they write in the box, bought Frank a pair of tennis shoes? There we go.
Can you use your allowance to buy a treadmill or other equipment?
Yes. So home gym equipment, treadmill, kettlebells, medicine balls, all those will be covered. And don't forget to write your description.
Write your description, but also that should be a super simple one to prove. Simple. Here's the receipt for my treadmill. I don't think you get extra. If they charge you extra every time you use the treadmill, I'm sure that it would turn into the clothing rack that it does for most people.
That's right.
Anyway. All right. Well, with all of that, thank you, Frank. This has been an excellent segment. So for anyone that hasn't utilized their extra benefits in the past, you're using a Medicare Advantage plan and you want to know a little bit more about them, give Frank a call because he might be able to help you to utilize old benefits retroactively, learn about your new benefits, or possibly still give you the opportunity to improve benefits, not only for the extras that the insurance company provides, but the medical. Maybe you have some new doctors. Maybe we can lower your prescription costs. If you're on a Medicare Advantage plan, you still have an opportunity for a review. So give our office a call. 314-863-0008, or send Frank an email, franklin@jblfinancial.com.
Very good. Thank you.
Thanks for being here, Frank. We really appreciate it. And with that, I think we'll take our first break of the hour. And when we get back, we'll be here to answer more of your questions at 314-931-5877 or text us 84126 on the text line.
Join us for the Byerly RV Expo, January 11th to the 15th at Byerly RV in Eureka, Missouri. Get show discounts on our entire inventory, including used. Prices so low, we can't show them on the internet. Coffee and donuts each morning and extended hours on Friday and Monday. And every RV purchase during the expo gets free storage through April and free dewinterization. Go to ByerlyRV.com for more information and come see us in Eureka, Missouri, the center of the RV world.
Byerly RV.
Hey Cardinals fans, since 1967, Metro Lighting has been serving St. Louis and the surrounding region, offering an unbeatable selection of lighting and ceiling fans for the guaranteed best price. On top of the manufacturer's warranty, Metro Lighting stands behind the quality products they sell by offering their own warranty. With showrooms full of distinctive furnishings, art, accessories, and gift items, you're sure to find something to fit your style. For lighting and home, shop locally owned Metro Lighting. MetroLightingCenters.com.
It's the most wonderful time of the year to upgrade your furnace. Viviano Heating and Air Conditioning can help you find the best option for all your heating and cooling needs. Decreasing energy bills and more effective heating is a win-win scenario in our book. Leave your comfort to the experts and enjoy the benefits savings in your warm home. Find out more about accessible maintenance programs, top-notch products, and high-quality service at VivianoAir.com. Trane, the most reliable name in heating and cooling around. It's hard to stop a train.
New year, new room, no tax. We're on a mission to save you money in 2024 at Miller Furniture and Mattress, with huge discounts in every category going on now through January 16th.
I'm Mark Miller, owner of Miller Furniture, your home for quality American-made furniture since 1927. Right now, you save the sales tax on all in-stock furniture and double the tax discount on 30 different mattress styles.
Save on all Flex Steel sectionals, sofas, love seats, chairs, and recliners. For a limited time, double your discount on select Flex Steel styles.
We're receiving custom order discounts from many of our Amish craftsmen. Save hundreds on our large selection of solid wood Amish-made furniture in Belleville, Lake St. Louis, Ellisville, and our newest location at Fairview Heights.
Plus, receive a free adjustable base with your purchase of a Chatham & Wells or Posh & Lavish mattress, pillow, and mattress cover.
Don't miss our New Year, New Room, No Tax sale, where you save the sales tax going on now through January 16th. Miller Furniture. We put the family in furniture. Check out millerfurniture.com SmartChoicesFurniture.com for all the details.
This is Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the market, the economy, or the world, that you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email, jeff@jblfinancial.com, to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money.
It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS.
Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, it's 10:30 here on the Big 550 KTRS. We're halfway through hour number 2 of Straight Talk on Retirement. What a great healthcare segment. You know, and it's just so much fun for me to listen to you guys talk about this. You know, having the ability to not only assist our clients in dealing with their financial needs, but also their healthcare needs. It's just a fabulous. I mean, it's just so much fun. And the big thing is people can check off a couple of boxes, right?
That's right. And, you know, the great thing, I think, is that as representatives and agents, we're always learning new things every day, how we can help you utilize your benefits, what we can do to make sure that you've maximized what you're entitled to. And as enrollees on the plan, you absolutely are. So being able to help Melanie retroactively with $1,600 worth of dental, we're going to have to find out what she does with her. That was almost like a bonus, what she's going to do with those excess funds that Frank was able to essentially claw back for her, which is great.
It's always nice when clients have a chair when the music stops, so to speak.
Exactly.
That fitness allowance is really something else. I mean, the idea that you could have bought a treadmill a month ago, and here we are, into the new year, and now the benefit starts all over again. Now you're buying an elliptical, perhaps.
Well, that's going to have to wait till next year because the fitness allowance just started January 1st. But I already like what you're thinking.
You put that
ready
off.
to go.
Right. You buy a big piece of equipment, in a couple months, and then, 12 months later, get ready for another one. Paid for by them.
Right.
That's the kicker in all this.
And I'm wondering, and we'll have to wait, we're going to have to fast forward like 12 months to find out how this is going to work, but would it be possible to split up that claim over 2 years, meaning, you bought a $2,000 treadmill, can you use the $1,200 of it this year and use $800 of it for next year? We'll have to find out how it works down the line, but I'm sure that we'll be the first to let you know if we can maximize the benefit even more.
It's like manna from heaven. I swear I wish I could get on one of these Medicare Advantage plans, but that'll have to wait.
Time will come.
Exactly. And we've got a holdover text question from the last hour, and our texter writes, for example purposes only, when you talk about a prudent rate of withdrawal, is the management fees a firm charges added to that overall money equation, example being 4% plus maybe the 1% that a firm might charge?
I know that from our math, and Dad, you can chime in too, that we don't tabulate that into your rate of withdrawal, but we do consider it when we are targeting a return for you.
Yes, I think that's fair.
Fair enough. But we do incorporate taxes, inflation into that target as well. So we're really looking at two sides of the equation, your rate of withdrawal and then working towards what our goal return will be over an extended period of time.
Those Monte Carlo simulations are great because you can see that over time that the withdrawal is really, to the extent that the apple cart could get turned over, it's the withdrawal rate, not the fees, not the expenses. It's really how fast you're sucking down money, which will, overturn the apple cart, so to speak.
There's no question about that, and I think that the whole concept of do I need to become more conservative in retirement? Honey, you don't know this, but
I don't.
I got invited. No, you don't know about this.
She knows a lot.
She certainly does. I got invited to speak to a ladies group here in California the other night and talk a little bit about retirement planning. And it's always curious to me when folks come up, and the people that we were talking with, everybody was in their late 60s, early 70s. And so we, naturally, one comment that came out was, I'm not going to be here that long, or I don't know if I really have the time. And my answer to this was, as a licensed life insurance agent for over 40 years, the mortality tables that are there, we're now estimating that normal mortality is age 120. Most folks aren't going to get there, but the bottom line is that
120.
Wow.
Yes, is that if you're alive today, if you're over, what happens is normal mortality for folks that are in their 60s is approximately 15 years. But it isn't a wall.
Right, you don't
so
run
what
into
happens
the
is,
end.
That's right. The wall continues to move. So if you're in a reasonable health, you can expect to be 15 years. Well, if you look back, that person that made that comment probably hadn't even been retired for 15 years yet. So becoming more conservative doesn't make sense. And going back to Rob's comment about Monte Carlo simulations, these are simulations that can be run based upon target portfolios, stock to bonds, with withdrawal rates. We know from history, and again, history doesn't necessarily repeat itself, but we know historically over 20, 30-year periods that moderate to moderately conservative portfolios, those between 60% to 70% of stock exposure over long periods of time, have shown that they have been able to deliver returns in excess of 4% the withdrawal rate. If you don't push yourself in a position to be able to earn at least as much as you're withdrawing, then what happens is you will tip over the apple cart, and actually it becomes a downhill slope. Our job is to make sure that that not only are you matching your risk tolerance, which is what you will do, and when you do that, you'll find that you'll be sitting in normally a 60 to 70% exposure to stocks, and then obviously a 30 to 40% exposure to bonds and cash. Staying invested, being invested, is what will deliver the returns that you need over a long period of time.
And this is a great lead into our next text question.
It absolutely is. Our next texter writes, "Hello, I have a question this morning. My question has to do whether my current advisor is managing my account properly. During the recent market downturn between January 1st, 2022 and August 15th, 2022, my 401k lost about 20%. Since then, my account at the end of 2023 had rebounded about 10%. Even with all the 2023 good news increases around the Dow and the NASDAQ, my 401k is still down 10%. Is this unique to me, or is this standard for a large majority of other retired individuals?"
I think the answer to that question is pretty simple. It comes down to mix. Okay. Right. If you only had a 20% downturn, that means you were probably in a moderately conservative mix, which meant that your exposure to stocks was probably less than 50%. Even though last year was a recovery year, at least the last 2 months of the year ended up being a recovery year, you participated in that recovery, but not to the extent that you wanted to. And the other side to that is on the fixed income side, which you had a lot of exposure to. As interest rates have risen, bond values go the opposite way, which means they've gone down. Until we see interest rates fall, we're not going to see bond values rise. So you're not invested in the market. You're not getting appreciation in the fixed income securities either, because interest rates aren't falling. It isn't unusual in your particular case, or frankly anybody's that's invested in that way, that they would have fully recovered. And that's why I think it's important to meet with your advisor often to talk about where they see the tea leaves as being, making sure that you get rebalanced, because in theory what should have happened is that your account values fall. The stock side of your portfolio should have been replenished with equity type or mutual equity investments so that you had an opportunity for that growth. What do you think, babe?
I think that like you said, this definitely comes down to mix, but it also comes down to expectations. And we have this conversation with clients on a regular basis, which, everyone's risk tolerance is exponential when the market's going up, but when the market's going down is the real question of how much risk you're willing to take. So if you've had the conversation with your advisor that you are a moderate or moderately conservative investor, then unfortunately during the last downturn, you saw your portfolio hit on both sides, on the fixed income side and on the equity side. So seeing the rebound was going to be difficult going if you didn't adjust your mix, but your advisor may not have felt that you were in the position to do that because of your current appetite for risk. So it's important to have ongoing conversations with your advisor so that way your portfolio not only matches your risk tolerance, but it matches your long-term goals.
And it's a perfectly reasonable question to ask. I mean, sit down with your advisor and say, hey, looks like I'm participating a little bit more in the downside when the market retreats as opposed to the upside when it goes up. Could it be the way I'm invested and how my assets are allocated? And, that's a very, very normal and reasonable conversation to have on a regular basis, mind you.
Agreed.
And I would also just add that with our clients, we do attempt to read the tea leaves a little bit. And we did actually increase the temperature in the second half of the year because we felt like a recovery would occur eventually, and we wanted to participate in the upside. So life is good. Go ahead, babe.
I was just saying the last few years have been unique. We've all heard that, but the rally at the beginning of the year really only included about 7 securities, really dragging the entire market up. So most people did not participate fully in the beginning of the year's rally because you had to be heavy into those particular securities to see your entire portfolio increase the way that we saw the tech side of the market rally. So sometimes it's important to keep in mind a little bit of perspective. It wouldn't have been prudent for you to be all in one specific security just to get that rebound.
And I would say also that kind of leads to, and I discussed this a little bit, we had a discussion about this a little bit earlier today, which is what I like to call the milk money. The assets that you need to generate the income that you need to be prudently invested. If you have excess assets over that, well, frankly, you're in a position where you can invest for growth. So assigning specific assets to do specific things, just a smart idea and something you ought to talk to your advisor about. And if you don't have one, you know what to do. Give us a call, 314-863-0008. Easy to do.
Yes, it is.
And with that, should we take our next break of the hour?
Let's take our last break of the hour.
Don't touch that dial. We'll be back with more Straight Talk on Retirement after these messages.
Hey, KTRS listeners, Roger Wigginton here at Don Rogers Limited, 6727 West Main in Belleville. Well, after over 47 years in business, I've made the very difficult decision to retire and turn the page to the next chapter in my life. The month of January, we invite you to enjoy a discount of 30% off the regular price of our entire inventory of wonderful men's and women's apparel and accessories. Nothing is held back. Also, our beautiful building located on Main Street with dedicated parking and spacious living above the store is also for sale. Perfect for starting your own boutique. We'll leave it turnkey for you, including the fixtures. Our retirement sale is in progress at Don Rogers Limited. Don't forget we are open 9:30 to 4, Tuesday through Saturday. As always, park at the door, walk in, and get waited on. All sales will be final during our entire sale. I would love to see you, my great friends, again one last time. As always, we thank you for listening to our commercial.
Welcome to Pizza World, your hometown pizza, located on Olive Boulevard just west of 270 and in Shrewsbury off Murdoch Avenue. Pizza World delivers the finest flavors of gourmet pizzas, chicken Alfredo, Texas barbecue, spicy Thai, and the Pizza World's signature gourmet Apodanza. See the entire menu at pizzaworldonline.com. For office meetings, family get-togethers, or watch parties, call Pizza World. The finest flavors of gourmet pizza, pastas, and salad. Pizza World.
What makes SWIC your first choice? Is it our affordable tuition, convenient locations, and online classes, or the 150 plus degrees and certificates in business, fine arts, health science, technical education, and more. Whatever it is, Southwestern Illinois College can train you for an exciting career or help you prepare for a university. Visit swick.edu, take a tour, and enroll today.
Did you know all the funding for the Salvation Army Adult Rehabilitation Center comes from sales at the 5 local Salvation Army thrift stores and the Vehicle Donation Program? They receive no government funding, and the men aren't even charged for the 6-month residential rehab work therapy program. With your donations and shopping at their stores, you're supporting those men who are rebuilding their lives. Visit satruck.org. That is satruck.org.
This is Erin Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email at aaron@jblfinancial.com to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money.
It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS.
Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, we're back for our last segment here on Straight Talk on Retirement. It's 1046 on the Big 550 KTRS. Our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the usually hot text line.
And as we don't have any more phone calls and the text line is unusually quiet, I thought we would go into our next segment. Where should I invest this cash?
So you've already determined either you had a bonus and you dedicated it to what we were talking about earlier, your emergency fund, paying down debt, maybe doing something fun, but now you got some cash.
So let's talk a little bit about Sue. Sue is 72 years old, and she has about $40,000 in cash above and beyond her vault requirements. Where should she invest this money?
Well, the first thing we want to consider is liquidity. Is she going to need access to these funds, even though it's above and beyond her vault in the next 12, 18, or 24 months for, major purchases, major events, unexpected things that shouldn't be subject to market risk. So if you have a short-term obligation, you don't want to meet it with long-term risk, which would be, market volatility.
And if those requirements are met, safety then becomes a concern. Is this money available for long-term investments? Does adding that money to the investment portfolio change the risk tolerances? Can you use that capital to rebalance your portfolio?
So sometimes we can utilize cash to rebalance. Maybe, for example, like our last texter, they had, they were moderately conservatively invested, and now they might want to turn the temperature up a little bit. Maybe we're using new funds, obviously not inside of the the IRA account, but open up a separate account that may be more aggressively invested to balance out the other side of the portfolio.
So, based on what Sue's told us, what are some of the options based on some of those near-term and long-term goals that you might have? Well, the first one would be putting that money in a high-yielding money market account.
So this one is, I've got a lot of liquidity. It's relatively safe because as long as you stay underneath the FDIC insured limits, most likely you aren't going to be subject to risk. The only risk that you're going to see is that rate in most money market accounts, that floats. So that means that you will see, you could see
some changes as we go into the new year. Perhaps maybe there's some rate cuts. I think right now they're paying upwards of like 4.5%, maybe even 5%. You could see that fluctuate. It could, get start to get whittled away bit by bit. But that's the price you pay for having, I think, absolute liquidity.
Then you might consider, if you're still looking for something that has a higher degree of safety, short-term and intermediate-term CDs. So maybe using a laddering approach like we talked about with our first caller, David, on the line, talking about, maybe utilizing some CDs. You might want to ladder those using different lengths of time, 6, 8, 12, 24 months.
Now, you won't have the liquidity, but you might be getting a better rate of return. So that's something you have to balance out internally. Do I need access to the money? If not, maybe that's a better alternative for you to go to the short-term CDs.
If you are interested in a guaranteed rate of interest for an extended period of time and you have no need for liquidity, potentially considering a fixed annuity would give you the opportunity to maintain a higher fixed crediting rate for a longer amount of time than a CD or a money market account would allow for.
And you would have some additional liquidity options with a fixed annuity because you do have that withdrawal corridor that allows you to take money from the contract, unlike a CD. So you're getting a longer term on the interest, but you do have some liquidity options. So it's a little bit of both.
It's also not FDIC insured because we're not using a bank. This would be insured by the general assets of the insurance company, so you are taking on a different type of risk than if you're using a money market or a CD.
And the next option would be a balanced fund.
A balanced fund, this would give you the opportunity to purchase one specific security that has both a component of equities, which are stocks, and a component of fixed income, which are generally bonds. So if your portfolio is already balanced the way that you would like it and you want to add to that balance, but maybe with a different flavor, you might consider a balanced fund.
You might also consider dividend-paying stocks or mutual funds.
And this is something that I would say is going to be dependent upon your overall game plan, because if you are someone that's in need of income, maybe you're adding to the income component of your portfolio. But if you're a person that either already has all of the income that they currently need or is not looking to take any additional income, you might not want to create any tax consequences for yourself by choosing something that's more heavily weighted towards dividend-paying securities, because you are going to pay taxes on that if it's used or not, especially if this is outside of a retirement account.
And another option we've touched on briefly just before was growth stocks or mutual funds in your portfolio. Perhaps maybe you want to be a little bit more aggressive with this money, being you don't have any special purpose for it, and maybe you've had an idea, or you or your advisor, about where you could be a little bit more aggressive. This could certainly be an option.
Or maybe you've now come to the point where you're investing for someone else's benefit. So if
you have a nephew and, he's 12 or 13, or a niece, and you know that their time horizon is, 6 or 7 decades, you're not as concerned about risk tolerances because they have a long time horizon. That's a great point.
And we've seen quite a few clients over the years where not only are they investing for their grandchildren or nieces and nephews that are significantly younger, have longer time horizons, so they could potentially be more aggressive, they're investing in things that those individuals like or could pay attention to, not only as a way to get them involved in their finances, but create a little finance for themselves.
And we've got a text question, and I think segues nice into what we're already discussing. Is it easy to comment in general terms on when an annuity is not advisable? Yes, very easy. If you don't
very easy.
If you don't have an income requirement, you don't need an annuity.
Or if you have liquidity needs, there are liquidity restrictions on annuities that you want to be careful of. If you already have a large component of fixed income and maybe don't need any more, like you just mentioned.
Don't need to stack chairs on top of chairs.
Right. Dad, do you have any other easy, generalized reasons why an annuity might not be advisable?
I think the two of you really came up with the answer, which is because of the complex nature of annuities, what you want to do is you want to plan to, if you're going to purchase one of these, you have to design not only the front end, which is the accumulation side, but also the back end, which is the distribution side. Annuities were not really created simply for accumulation purposes, because we know that if in a fixed annuity as an example, the interest that you earn is income tax deferred until you begin to make withdrawals, or at death we know that that interest is not subject to a step-up basis, so it's ordinary income to the beneficiaries. So we use these primarily in an income strategy, holding it for a while, using it as an accumulation tool, and then taking that income stream it can create and making that a part of their game plan. So you need to make sure that you're taking care of both sides. There is no good deal. That's the whole thing.
Right. Never is there.
There is no good deal.
These are all tools to get you to where you want to go. They are not the solution to where you want to go.
As my daughter once said, you don't use a screwdriver when you need a hammer.
Absolutely. And getting back to Sue just for one last minute, the last thing she could do with that $40,000 is, and this is a great one, gifts to loved ones or to charity.
We always love gifts to loved ones.
And they love getting them, too.
Absolutely.
And it goes both ways, which is nice, right?
Well, it depends on who has the cash.
There you go. So I was going to say again, gifts are important. We know that you can give away up to $18,000 per person to every living human being. But coincidentally, in this discussion with Sue, we also found out that she had other appreciated assets. Giving cash in most situations is really, in many cases, not the most tax-efficient way to gift.
Giving charitable gifts, not to individuals, but to 501c3s, educational institutions, anywhere that you would be able to receive a credit for having made a donation, you may want to consider not cash.
And the reason being is that appreciated security, when that charity receives it and they sell it, they don't pay capital gains taxes. And you get to you get to claim as a deduction the fair market value of the security at the day that you make that gift, not what you paid for it. And it's interesting is it's the other side also, which is if you're going to be making gifts to human beings, you don't really want to give securities.
Right.
Because what happens is you want to give cash, so in theory they could purchase the security so that they have that basis in that security and it grows and they're getting long-term capital gains. When you gift stock or mutual funds to individuals, they inherit that at the fair market, at your basis, what you paid for it, not at the fair market value of which you gifted.
So when you gift it, you were getting their cost basis. But if you inherited it, you would get fair market value at the time of death. So it's just a little interesting nuance there.
Absolutely. So we've got a couple more text questions before the end of the show.
Very interesting one. And our next texter writes, what recourse do you have if your fiduciary does not execute your orders correctly?
So the first thing that I would say is I would contact the individual who you requested to execute a particular order. If there is something that can be done to have it corrected for you, then they should and are really required to help you make that correction. Sometimes errors occur that can easily be corrected. You may want to contact them directly. If you feel this is something that can't be corrected, or they tell you that they cannot correct it, then I would contact the broker-dealer that's affiliated with the fiduciary, the individual that you are working with, and let them know what the situation is. And they will work with you to either create a correction or begin what recourse you'll have available to you.
No, very well stated, babe. Exactly.
And our last texter writes, can I search for an episode on your website? We conveniently keep the last 6 to 8 months of those episodes archived for your listening convenience.
And you can also take a look at the KTRS website under Straight Talk on Retirement. They also hold our website, all of our shows available for you to listen to as well. And if you're looking for a particular episode, you can always contact us by hitting that Contact Us button at jblfinancial.com, and we can try and help you locate it. So with that being said, I think it's time for us to say thanks for listening. Give us a call, 314-863-0008. We'll see you next week.
The opinions voiced
voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities from LPL Financial.
Be listening next week at 9 for more Straight Talk on Retirement with your retirement.